George would do the dyno tune, so it was broken in nicely, and she's ready to rumble now. This is on pump gas too.
Yep, straight up pump gas. I didn't want you to have any race fuel in it because you want to tune it for the natural environment. Well, this weekend you went to Lake George. Are you going to carry around a 5-gallon can of race cans with you?
Hell no.
No. So, but then again, next time you go to Lebanon Valley, you should bring some.
Yeah. Man, if I knew what I knew now, I would have ran it there.
All right, let's make some.
Gotta put my ear in. Automatic thing, the whole front wheel. So how do you interpret the data that you come up with here?
Okay, well, this is showing us RPM across the bottom. So you can see I came in 1600 RPM, and this is showing us horsepower this side and torque on this side.
Yep.
This is our horsepower delivery. This is our torque delivery. So if I, just use a cursor here to make it a little easier, you can see at 2200 RPM we were producing 93 and change, or I should say.
It's pretty stout for 2200 RPM, huh?
Yeah, we're at 93 and change torque.
Torque?
Yep. And then we can go. Let's see.
Torque peaks at what, 116?
Yeah, we got 116, almost 117 foot-pounds of torque at 3,800 RPM.
Is that about what you expected?
Yeah, I mean, again, we're stock cylinder head, stock throttle body, stock injectors. I mean, really, all you've done is you're still a 110. We've just put compression and a little bit longer duration camshaft in it.
And a better exhaust.
Right, and a 2-into-1.
And tuned it, and it's got 34 more horsepower.
And here's the interesting thing, you still have a stock air cleaner on it, which has some surface area, but it's not a large surface area. The cover is on it, so you only have this small crack in behind here that's drawing the air in.
The best part is the engine's basically stock, and it's all Harley Davidson. There's no aftermarket Mickey Mouse shit on this bike.
Exactly.
The only aftermarket component on it is the exhaust.
Right. I mean, even just an air cleaner alone, I'll bet you if we took this off and put like the nice S&S teardrop with the tall filter on it, I'll bet you that's worth 4 or 5 horsepower on this motor.
I'd rather leave it stock in.
Well, this is what I'm getting at, though. You're still running your stock CVO cover,
which is beautiful. It's the calling card for the bike. Really.
Yeah. So as you can see,
so when you pull up next to them and they think you're on a stock CVO and you leave them in the dust.
Well, the big reason you're going to have that is not only did we get an increase in our torque, because typically the torque is about 106, 108 stock, so now you can see we're pushing 117. Again, on a day that's not great for humidity and things. Yeah. But at the same time, instead of the horsepower rolling off right about 44, 45 where they typically do, you can see this one continues to climb all the way to 5,000 and then holds the horsepower all the way to 6,200.
That's the main reason I wanted to work on the bike, is it was signing off way too early. Somewhere around the 40, where was it stock signing off? Probably around 42, 44.
Well, here, let's do this, Ken. We have your Dyna S that I ran. Let's see if I can find the right file here. Nope, not that one.
What was the peak? The peak torque was 116. What was the peak horsepower on that?
On which bike, man?
On the one we just tested.
On the CVO?
Yeah, the CVO.
The CVO right now is sitting almost 104 and 117. And then just for ha-has, I pulled up your Dyna S now.
4 horsepower, 117.
Yep. Now I pulled up your Dyna S, and you can see the Dyna S down here made a smidgen more torque and a little bit more horsepower. But that's because of that very short duration camshaft. Now, if I move the cursor over here, you can see we're going, say, at 2,700 RPM. You can see 96 to 100. So they're almost 97. So 3 foot-pounds of torque and about 2 horsepower was the loss of going to that longer duration camshaft on your 110. But now we come over here, let's choose let's say 5,400 RPM or something. Now we're looking at 77 horsepower versus 101 horsepower.
Yep.
And all we did was an exhaust, a Screaming Eagle camshaft, and a Screaming Eagle pistons with a pipe.
Pretty substantial
stock
difference.
air cleaner and everything. So that's massive. Now you're talking, 28% gain?
Yes.
And that's at that RPM. If we go higher in the RPM, oh yeah, look, the bike before, it's signed off. It was done. It's actually rolling over by 4,500 RPM. Where this one continues to rev 6,200, hits the rev limiter, still making over 100.
Yeah, that's the one thing I noticed. Like the stock CVO was signing off, in the 4,000 RPM. It was nice and torquey up to them, but it fell flat. You had to short shift it. So if you were, just wasn't any extra power.
Right.
You start losing power if you're empty.
Well, yeah, you can see the torque came up, and now it's rolled over. You can see the horsepower came up, and now it's rolling over. That's on your stock 110.
4,400 RPM.
Right, on your stock 110. Oops. Yep.
And with the modifications made here, which are very simple, Harley Davidson OEM equipment, which is going to retain your reliability, you have a much more flexible powertrain.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So the little bit that we gave up on your sub 3,400 RPM, okay, massive gains on your 3,400 and up RPM.
Let's go to where the other one signed off at 44.
Oh, you want to graph it there? Okay.
Yeah. At 44.
That's where
RPM.
it reached its peak
It
at
peaked
83.65, and this was at 96 and still climbing.
You've got 12 more horsepower. That's probably 15% right there.
And that's where that's rolled over now.
Substantial more torque, but that's where it signed off. There was nothing above that. It started going down. So let's go down. Let's go to like a 5. Let's say you did rev that to 5,000 RPM.
5,000.
Let's go to 5,000 RPM. Now at 5,000 RPM, you've got less. You've got 79 horsepower.
And the other one went up.
And you've got 101. That's
Almost
22
102
horsepower. That's like a 20, almost 25% increase in power. So in a drag race, what would happen in a quarter mile as far as drag race? This one would be.
If you got this one off the line right, this one would destroy the other motorcycle.
I'd probably be what, 10, 20 bike lengths ahead.
Oh, yeah, probably 10.
Yep. Basically leave them in the dust.
Yep. Yeah, it's you don't think that that's a lot, but if you can get the 60 foot right, that bike will smoke the other bike.
Stoplight to stoplight, there's no comparison.
Yep, no doubt.
My buddy Dale has a stock CVO 110, same exact bike as this, with a pipe and a flash on it, but he didn't do the camera, the high compression. And when we went riding, he said the same thing. It was his bike was signing off, mine was just pulling like a freight train.
Right, yeah, yours doesn't give up.
And coming out of corners, you crack the throttle, the rear wheel break loose on this thing. You can ride it like a sport bike if you want to, you know?
Yeah, well, that's because if you look, it's got an aggressive torque delivery. You know, here you are, you're at 3,000, so 3,000 to 4,000, let's face it, if you're just messing around a little bit, you're in that RPM range all the time. But look how aggressive the horsepower comes up and how aggressive the torque jumps up. So that's why when you get in the throttle there, rah, you got all kinds of throttle.
Let's take a look at 4,000 RPM. What's the difference at 4,000? So 4,000, you've got 116 horsepower, right?
Yep. Well,
Wait,
116
torque versus 103. So you've got like what, 15% more torque,
Yep.
and you've got 10 more horsepower, and that's in the middle of your drivability range. That's a pretty substantial.
Yeah, that's where you're just messing around a little bit. You're playing in traffic. You're not really giving it hell, but you're not just cruising either.
Awesome. Fantastic. So that proves you don't have to put S&S motors in or go crazy on your bike. Some of the right modifications or proper tuning will give you right here showing a 20% increase in power. Right?
Yeah.
25, almost 25% at the
Which may not sound a lot, but when you ride it, you're like, wow.
It's huge. The flexibility of not signing off at 4,400 RPM is huge. You got to be on point to shift, short shift basically, and then you're dropping back down in the power range. So with this one, you can keep it up instead of dropping down from, let's say 80 horse to 40. You can keep this thing at damn near close up to 100 horsepower.
Yeah. Here's something else too, just as a heads up. Obviously I'm using the eddy current brake, and I put the bike under load, so I'm not just spinning the dyno without load.
Yep.
So that influences our peak numbers.
Yep.
And at the same time, okay, this is a 6-speed transmission. I do my testing in 5th gear because look, if I change this into mile an hour, okay, you can see that this motorcycle in 5th gear at 6,200 RPM was almost 140 miles an hour.
Yeah, I was
That's
going
5th gear, not 6th gear.
I was going 105 in 5th gear in this uphill with a passenger, and it wasn't even on the red line.
Right.
So yeah, that's
But the reason
that's
why
before we modified it.
Right.
So this bike will do 140 miles an hour in 5th gear.
Well, it's geared for it. Doing it and geared for it.
Maybe downhill with a tailwind, right?
Exactly.
So
the reason why I use 5th gear though.
How do people get dyno numbers to lie? How do they?
That's easy. I mean, I could take this thing and take the flash and put 5 degrees of timing, advance to it.
Yep.
Okay. Take and turn the load off and use 6th gear, and I'll bet you this bike picks up 8, maybe even 10 horsepower.
So what we're trying to find here are the real world numbers under
it's not
identical
just
conditions.
real world. It's numbers that are gonna work.
Yep.
Real world, because you can make big numbers on a dyno, but then you ride it on the street, the bike starts pinging, it's not accelerating as well as you think it does, because without a load, engines do very different things, loaded and unloaded. Okay, very, very different. They don't think, and like anybody that's been tuning motors for any length of time, they know that a motor under load will automatically carburate a little bit richer. Well, guess what? Even though it's digital, for some weird reason, so does EFI systems. Okay, so that's why proper tuning makes all the difference in the real world.
You're hearing this from a guy who's been dyno tuning for just under 30 years now on a dyno, a legit dyno, and building engines for how many years?
Oh wow! Before I even started here, I was doing race bikes. So
Factory caliber race bikes that won 883 nationals and XR 750 nationals. So
yeah.
real Harley Davidson race numbers. So not pie in the sky BS. That's what George has given us here. And the drivability's off the hook. Even before you tuned it, the build that you did made it substantially better. And it wasn't like a huge chunk of cash to do it. You know, it was affordable build with the right components for real world performance.
Stock cylinder head, stock throttle body, stock injectors, all stock.
Even the air filter stock.
Yeah, just pistons, camshaft, exhaust system, tuner, done.
20, almost 20.
100 some freaking pounds of torque and horsepower.
And 103 horsepower, which will be an absolute boom.
And again, that's not tuning just for dyno numbers. That's for a tune that I know will work in
That's
the street.
tuned to work on the street and for the long haul. So,
Yep.
George, is there anything else you want to say to the listeners here about what we did here, or you want to?
This is something that we do here quite often. I do almost all of the engine builds. I do any of the custom builds. I do the performance consultation here at Maroney's. All the machine work, like on your FXDXT, I machine your cylinder heads and your cylinders. I do all the machining and everything here. So I am the guy. You're not coming to Maroney's thinking you're going to have some Maroney's do it and don't know who's doing it. I do it.
It's not some kid who just got out of school who they're
Right.
bolting on some parts and stripping bolts
I
up.
do. I am the performance
It's not some
specialist.
kid with a set of channel locks who thinks he knows what he's doing, you know.
Right.
So this
and
guy.
if you have questions, you can talk to me. I'm not some guy hidden in the bag like a surgeon that you never get to see. You know what I'm saying? If you have a question that's legit, you can ask questions, and I'm happy to answer them.
Actually, you are a surgeon. You're a motor surgeon.
Well, you're
you
right.
have a PhD
You're right.
in Harley technology. So.
Well, don't say PhD because Harley says I don't have any PhDs.
So this is Maroney's Harley Davidson. Turn around. Let me see the back of your shirt, George. This is Maroney's Harley Davidson, Newburgh, New York. We're in the dyno room. We're going to do some more videos of dyno tuning the FX DXT that George built, and also a review of the shop. So stay tuned. Please share this video, like and subscribe. Please, it doesn't cost you anything. Just hit the subscribe button, and stay tuned for some more kick-ass videos. Goldilocks and the 3 Dynas coming up pretty soon. Stay tuned for that one. God bless America.